Okay, so the entire crypto market just flipped. Bitcoin is getting somewhat of a recovery right now. Ethereum swept all-time high and absolutely died, and is kind of giving you the biggest SMT that I've ever seen in my entire life. Solana obviously with a big move down after sweeping the highs. Dogecoin with a big move down after sweeping the highs. And now here we are, okay? In this video, I want to go over USDT Dominance. In my last video, I explained the importance of USDT Dominance. And I want to use USDT Dominance today to kind of have an idea as to what may happen next. Because I do believe that we are in a very pivotal moment. And I don't think people quite understand how crucial what's about to happen now is, okay? So I'm going to take you on my journey. If you don't know about USDT Dominance, go watch my previous video. I'll put it up, left, top, right, wherever it is. And we'll go from there, okay? Now, before we begin, I just want to say two things. Number one, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? I'm a 5'2" 3/4" wannabe singing non-financial advisor, in fact. So this is not financial advice. Do your own research, blah, blah, blah. Number two, I'm not feeling well today, okay? I'm not really feeling well, if you can probably hear it in my voice. So if you like the content, and because I'm making this video for you while I'm not feeling well, I would really appreciate it if you like the video. It helps the algorithm, but only if I provide you value, okay? Now, in order to understand what happened today and what might happen next, we need to understand how we even got here, okay? So we're going to zoom out on USDT Dominance. I'm not going to bounce around the whole market. I'm only going to do USDT right now because that's all you need to do. That's how you're going to have a good understanding as to what's going to happen, okay? So let's take it from the top. USDT Dominance right now is simply range bound. I don't think anybody would disagree with this. You have your range low here. You have your range high here, okay? Amidst your range, you can see very clearly we have nothing but liquidity to the upside. And a quick refresher for anyone that may not know or hasn't listened to me, and go watch the previous video first, USDT Dominance is a complete inverse on the rest of the market, which means if there's liquidity to the upside and USDT decides to pump, then that means the entire market is going to dump and likely has liquidity to the downside. Now, when it comes to range trading, I'm always looking for accumulation models. I'm always looking for distribution models. Long story short, what that means is you're going to have 3 taps on the low or 3 taps on the high. In this case, we have 1 tap on the low here. We have the second tap, which must be lower than your tap 1. And your third tap could be either a higher low or a lower low. We'll come back to that in just a moment. In terms of the upside, you can see within our range, we very clearly only have 1 tap on the high. So is it likely for USDT Dominance to eventually make a push up? Yes, it is. And this may actually call the top of the market, because when Bitcoin was at 74K, that's when USDT Dominance was right over here. So if USDT Dominance does make its way to the upside, obviously the market's going to dump. And, you know, every coin is going to be, it's not always evenly distributed. So that doesn't mean that, like, when you're here, Bitcoin's going to be sub 74K. That's not necessarily the case. What could happen is altcoins may bleed heavily against Bitcoin, and then that's what causes that. But anyways, nonetheless, we know that range is range, and we know that we're looking for our zones. Now, here's why it's very important. Okay. We have 2 zones right now. If I actually flash my TA, we have 2 zones where you might actually get that that flip. Okay, so I'm actually turn this off. I'm going to delete all this because we just went over it. We just explained it. Great. Actually, I need to just delete this here. Okay, I don't want to delete my alert. I need my alerts. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Beautiful. Okay, and we'll turn back on our group. So we said that we are looking for 3 taps on the low. Okay, now there are 2 places where this third tap could be. This could be where we're at right now, where we hit on August the 14th. That was a significant low for now on USDT Dominance. We are looking for that. We are also looking for a third tap to potentially take you down to about 3.6%, 3.54%. That would mean that the market is going to pump. Let's just say you confirm a bullish Model 1 accumulation, which would be this one here. That's why it says M1A zone. Then, you know, that's where potentially you may get that rise, okay? Or from here, right? Now, how do we confirm that rise, all right? How do I confirm a zone? Me personally, the way that I trade is if I have my higher time frame zone, which now we're on the lower time frame, okay? We're on the 30-minute time frame. This is my higher time frame zone, zone number 1. Remember, zone number 2 is down here, which we haven't hit yet. I don't know which one's going to bounce off of, but that's what we're going to talk about in this video. This hit your high time frame zone. The way for me to actually confirm my zone is I need to see a market structure flip. Okay, so I have low, I have high, I have low, and I have high, and I have break. Immediately, I am extrapolating a higher low to then make a higher high, okay? Now, what happened on Friday was very annoying for me because I was waiting for these equal highs to get taken out, okay? By the way, before we talk about those equal highs, let's talk about our structure. In the last video, I'm pretty sure I talked about how I was already expecting potentially a lower high to then make a lower low. This is where your structure may fail. We're going to talk about structure in just a moment. But on Friday, when we had our giga pump across the world and everybody was so unbelievably bullish, I didn't actually get in on those longs because while Bitcoin swept its range low, USDT Dominance swept the second high, but not the first high. So I had an alert on the first high. I didn't get it. I didn't miss it because it didn't cross it. We swept the second high, not the first high, even though these are virtually right next to each other. The absolute worst case scenario played out. However, what we need to understand now is that this high and this high are still equal highs. So you still have reason to come back up to these levels, okay? Now, in terms of structure, we discussed how do we know whether or not this zone is going to be our higher time frame level. Remember, we're looking for two different lows and we're in one of them right now. Well, I need to see a candle close above very high time frame swing structure, which as you can see based on your red structure, we have high, we have low, we have lower high, we have lower low. So if you start to get candles that close above this line, 4.6-ish%, daily candles that close above here, then I think that there's a serious threat to the bull run, okay? If you disagree with me, then that's completely fine. That's completely okay. I'm just telling you what I think, okay? I'm not making predictions. I'm not saying the bull run is over. I'm not saying that it is going to go up here. I'm not saying it is going to close up here. I'm not saying that if it does close up here, the bull run's over 100%. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying if the daily candle closes above this line, I believe that there is a serious threat to the bull run, okay? At the end of the day, I'm a trader. I don't care. I don't care about long-term bags. I don't care about moon. I don't care about super cycles. I don't care. I trade it level for level, and it's as simple as that, okay? So after we get this break of structure, we have, right, like I said, down, up, down. We are already expecting potentially a lower high to then make a lower low. That would be bullish on the market, okay? So what happened now? We're going to draw it with yellow. What happened? And how do we know where that potential red lower high is going to come in? Let's draw it with red so that we're all on the same page, okay? How do we know where that lower high is going to come in? You're going to look for a mid-time frame, or in my case, yellow, market structure flip to the downside. So you have up, you have down, 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 you have up, and then you had break, okay? So this is where your yellow structure broke bearish, which is telling me that this structure here is probably going to be your swing high, right? And we're expecting continuation to make a lower low. Now, here's where things get very interesting and where I don't think that many people understand quite where we are at and how important what you're about to witness probably this week is, okay? I actually think that this week could be a very big turning point in all of crypto, and we're going to know sooner than later, okay? Here's what I'm thinking. So as you can see, your structure is as follows. What we did over here, how we extrapolated this leg to the upside, okay, this red swing structure, we knew because after you get a break of structure, you're expecting a lower high to make a lower low. Fine, that happened, right? You do the same thing here. So what's your structure? You have up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and break. So we are expecting a lower high to then make a lower low, and this technically could be swing longs on the market, right? Here's where things get a little bit more ambiguous and where things get a little bit more, we don't really know. It's up in the air, okay? It's a little bit more complicated. We have now had our pullback into this level, right? Same that we did here, right? You broke your structure, you had your pullback, you have the potential continuation. Here, you broke your structure, you had your pullback, and now we are looking for that continuation, right? If you start to get that continuation, I'm fairly confident that we're going to have a decent run, probably headed towards this low again. And if that happens and you start, like, you're already deep into this higher time frame zone. So if you do make your way back down to this low, then I do suspect that we actually have a serious chance at a really super perma bull giga up only run to potentially hit this level, okay? But the key word is if, right? Because I don't know if it's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to happen. And how do we play this now? So, like, how do we know, right? How do we know? Well, we do the same thing that we just did on two different time frames. We did on the lower term time frames as well. I need to see structure confirmations in order for me to say, okay, we're probably headed to the upside or to the downside on the rest of the market. Remember, USDT Dominance gives you a... USDT Dominance is an inverse correlation to the rest of the market, okay? So what are we looking for? After we get that break of structure, you're looking for the lower high, lower low, and I need a market structure flip. Now, my market structure currently as things stand right now in real time is as follows, okay? We have low, we have high, we have higher low, we have higher high, we have higher low, actually lower low SFP, and then we have up like this. So this structure is bullish. The only way that I can call this my mid-time frame high, which would effectively confirm that this is my high time frame high on USDT Dominance, is if and when this low gets broken on USDT Dominance. Now, this doesn't really serve us any good because this low is all the way basically giving back the entire move. And that's my point. Your structure remains bullish right now. Longing, in my opinion, remains counter trend trading right now on this time frame until that low goes. This very large impulsive move to the upside is not easily reversible. It can reverse. Again, I'm not saying that the highs, the lows in across the board. I'm not saying it's the top beginning of the bear market. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. But for me, I need to see some form of structure failure in this zone to be more confident in, let's just call it swing longs. Okay. Like I said, Bitcoin just took a bunch of liquidity, left the CME gap. I think a lot of people are longing into that CME gap. I think a lot of people think there's no more liquidity to the downside. However, there absolutely is liquidity to the downside, this, that, and the other. But we'll have to wait and see how the USDT chart progresses, okay? Now, there are ways to get a better confirmation as opposed to just waiting for this low. That's a little bit more advanced. You need to take my course to learn that. I'm not really too eager to talk about that in this very moment. But what I will tell you is, based on what we have on the screen right now, if I hide this group 1 and we get rid of this structure that we now hopefully understand. If you don't understand, go back and watch this video again. Based on what you can see right now, this morning, in the Nexus, we giga-longed. We had like a 15 risk to reward trade on Dogecoin. The whole market pumped, and we basically confirmed this power of 3. Okay, power of 3 is when you have a range, as you do right over here. You consolidate above the range without breaking significantly above the range, and then you fall back with structure, coming back into the range, and you leave nothing but liquidity to the downside. This is important because this was a PO3, power of 3, and this is, by the way, most of the time I get my very good trades, whether they're longs or shorts, they are almost usually power of 3s, okay? So we had a huge long on the market today. It was a great day, great morning, right? And now what ended up happening was I actually thought that your PO3 was going to be like this, where, you know, you had your range as big as this, your manipulation, and then your expansion was going to come down and take that low, but I was wrong. I was wrong. This was your true range. What happened is you actually ended up deviating the low of the range, breaking structure back within, and that's the reason that we got this pump. In other words, we just got a fake out of a PO3 or a confirmed PO3 that immediately reversed back to the upside on USDT Dominance. And remember, USDT Dominance is an inverse correlation on the rest of the market. So we just got a huge scam move today on a Sunday while leaving that CME gap above on Bitcoin and everybody putting their longs below the low, saying all that liquidity was taken. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is, you know, going to happen or whatever the case is, but I have to be a little bit more cautious because of this PO3 and the nature of the PO3. PO3s should not take you to the other side of the range and then catapult up like this. It's not supposed to do that. This is normally a continuation, like kind of pattern, I guess you'll call it, to the downside in this case, which would have pumped the market. That didn't happen. This is something to be very cautious of. So while I can utilize other tools and other methods to say, okay, maybe this is the high, and we're going to rotate back down to the low. Even if I was going to do that, given the current context of the market at this moment in time, I have to still be a little bit more careful because of what we just went over with the bearish PO3, okay? We know that this move that we just had to the upside didn't really mitigate anything extravagant here. I thought maybe we would have been able to push a little bit higher. So we'll have to see. Perhaps if we do come up again and we take out that high and then you get like a nice structure flip like this, then I would say, okay, you can target this low again. But if that doesn't happen, then, you know, we have to just, I just think we have to be a little bit cautious here because it's a little bit up in the air. It's a little bit ambiguous. It's a little bit 50-50. And me personally, like, I'm not here to gamble. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a scalper. I really don't care which way it goes. I'm going to trade it either way. But I just wanted to give like kind of a higher time frame outlook for everybody because I think that this move, and I think that this week, because of this move, is going to be very tricky for a lot of people. So here's what I'll say. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad, okay? But what I can, and I can't advise you, but what I would advise you is just be careful with your positions. Don't just, you know, YOLO moon long everything or YOLO perma bear short everything, because I think that this week is actually going to be very difficult. I think it's going to be very choppy. I think it's going to be very, very hard. One last thing that we need to understand is that with this yellow structure where you had your high, your low, and your break, your expectation is lower, high, lower, low. However, when you have reason for that structure to fail, they sometimes give you that SFP. So be a little bit cautious of that as well, because these equal highs are still intact. Even though this high swept out this liquidity, the majority of the liquidity was there. So you now have equal highs once again, okay? So we'll have to wait and see. I'll probably go on live if I'm feeling a little bit better. I swear I'm always sick, man. It's absolutely horrendous. Like, my immune system is trash. But for now, I have to be a little bit more cautious, and I have to say that I would probably expect, you know, either a range to form here or a decent pull to the upside before just hammering the longs. Okay, I could be wrong about it. You know, again, I trade at level for level, so I have absolutely zero trades right now anyway. We had a really good 15 risk reward trade this morning, so I'm not eager to just like, oh, I have to be in a trade all the time. I don't really care to do that. But yeah, I would just be a little bit more cautious than not cautious this week specifically. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. That's it for my USDT update. Once again, I'm not feeling well, so you know, my apologies for my voice being like this, but hopefully I feel better soon, and hopefully I'll be in front of you guys live, and you know, we'll maybe take some trades live together. So that being said, if you want to join the Nexus, the link for that's in the description down below. Enter thenexus.com. If you want to trade on the exchange that I trade on, KSEX, which is the #1 exchange. By the way, I am the first creator that's put on KSEX, that put everybody on KSEX. Just saying. Anyways, that's my USDT update. Happy Sunday. Trade safe. Be good. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Stay wealthy. For me, stay healthy specifically. Good risk management. Cover your capital. Cover your ass. Okay. Opportunity is infinite. Capital is not. One love.